Hi everyone, and thank you for your interest in this talk. I'm going to be talking about winter bird identification in the Edmonton area, and it's intended for anyone who's new to birding or someone who's looking for a bit of a refresher. And it's in preparation for the Edmonton Christmas bird count, which will be on December 19th, 2021. So here's the plan. First, I'm going to talk about some birding skills and birding aids. And then the large part of it is going to be me sharing my pictures of birds from the Edmonton area, mostly taken in my backyard, but also in and around Edmonton. And then finally, I'm going to be talking about the Edmonton Christmas Bird Count website and some of the resources that you can find there. So, birding aids. There are field guides, and there are also bird song recordings, so you can find those on websites or applications. So here are some examples of guides. The two on the left are specific to Alberta. The Birds of Alberta was co-authored by Chris Fisher and John Acorn, and a new edition just came out this past January. And the next one was written by Myrna Pierman, and a big part of it is sharing about different kinds of feeders and the food that you can provide for the birds, but it also has a good section at the back showing the different species that you can find. And the two on the right are field guides, so these are books that have much more detail and far way more higher number of birds. And if you're a new person and new to birding and you're going to buy a field guide, make sure you get one for Western North America. And one more option, these are hardcover books, but one more option is to get the field guide app. So I have a Sibley app on my phone. It has all the information from the hardcover book, hard copy book, but it also has the bird songs on it, so it's the best of all worlds. So it's another thing that you might want to consider. So Sibley and Peterson are just two examples of the kinds of field guides that are out there. Also, you'll want to have binoculars, and it seems like a bit of a cliche, but it really is essential. Quite often the birds aren't close enough to you to be able to get a proper identification without them. And also having a camera is very helpful. You can grab an image of the bird, and then you can spend time looking at it, comparing it to the field guide. And also, if you still are having trouble identifying the bird, you can share it with somebody more experienced, and they might be able to help you. And then having feeders and bird bath in your backyard will bring the birds into your yard and allow you to take a nice closer look. And of course, in the wintertime, bird baths have to be heated. So here's a collage of pictures that I took in my backyard last year of birds that came to my heated bird bath. So you can see that it is quite an attraction to the birds. And I'll be talking about these birds in my talk. So there's 4 keys to identification. First is the one that people think of the most, or first, and that's color pattern and field marks. So basically, yeah, what color are they, and do they have stripes on them, etc. But that's often not enough, so you might also want to consider looking at the size and shape of the bird. So for size, take a bird that you are familiar with, like a robin, and say, okay, is it bigger than a robin, but is it smaller than a crow, that kind of thing. And shape, is it round like a chickadee, or is it sleek like a waxwing? And behavior, for example, are they feeding on the ground, or are they coming up to the bird feeders? And habitat, are there trees where you are? If so, what kinds of trees and what types of food are they producing? So we're going to be looking at all these different keys to identification as we go through the talk. One more resource that I wanted to let you know about, it's actually found on the Edmonton Christmas Bird Count website. And it's their ABC species list. So this is a list of, it's based on the results from past Edmonton Christmas bird counts. So the birds that are on the A list are ones that have been found at least 16 of the last 20 years. B are more difficult, and C are more rare. So it might just be a good resource for you. And I will show you at the end of the talk where that list can be found. So let's look at the winter birds. So this is a house sparrow. It's a bird that might be fairly well known to most people. It is not native to North America. It was introduced from Europe in the mid-1800s, but now it's all found all across North America. But during the wintertime, it doesn't migrate, it stays put. Just to point out, with this male, got a gray on the crown there, black chin and bib, and a plain belly. So on each slide, I'm going to have this at the bottom right-hand corner. So 2020 is the year of the count, so last year. ECBC is the Edmonton Christmas bird count. And with the house sparrows, we saw over 6,000 of them. This is a female house sparrow. They tend to be more drab. And just note that the females also have that plain belly. So all of our native sparrows do tend to fly south for the winter, but some of them decide to not bother going, and they just, what's called overwintering, they just stay behind. So this is a white-throated sparrow. It's the only native sparrow that's on our A list, and last year we counted 19 of them. So if you look at just the body, very similar to the house sparrow, but if you look at the head, it's quite different. It's got a white-black stripe, yellow at the lower, which is the area between the eye and the base of the beak, and of course, a white throat. So if you see an LBJ, a little brown job, don't just assume that it's a house sparrow in the wintertime. Take a closer look, because it might be one of our native sparrows. And this is a house finch. Over 15 years ago, house finch weren't found in Alberta, but now they have moved in. This is a male. It's got the red head and chest, and there's red on the rump, and a very streaky belly. And last year we counted 1,200 of them. And these are house finch in our heated bird bath. You notice the two males on the outside, and the one in the middle is a female, similar to a house sparrow. She's more drab, but you'll notice the streaking on the belly. So female house sparrow has a plain belly, the house finch has a streaked belly. And one more thing to watch out for. The one on the left is a house finch, so the red patches, but we also have purple finch, and they tend to migrate through, but some will be around through the winter. Roger Torrey Peterson described them as a little bird having been dipped in raspberry juice. So here you can see that the red is just in patches. With the purple finch, the purpley color goes all the way through the body there. So anyway, it's just something to keep an eye out for. Last year we saw one, we counted one, and they are on our A list, so they are expected, maybe not in big numbers, but they are expected to be seen each December for the count. Now I'm going to talk about chickadees. This is a black-capped chickadee. I think most people would be familiar with that. With the black cap and chin, and a big, broad, white ear patch. These are very friendly birds. If you're walking along the the trail in the river valley, they sometimes follow you, just hoping that you might have some seed for them. And last year we counted almost 3,700 of them. But we do have 2 species of chickadee. This happened when I gave my live talk, and I can't move my slides for some reason. Oh, there it goes. Oops. Ta-da! So our other species of chickadee is the boreal chickadee. And it's more of a brown chickadee, brown cap, and flank and back. But they are far less common. Last year we only counted 35 of them compared with 3,700 black cap chickadee. So it's really important, if you see a chickadee, to take the time to discern whether it's a black cap chickadee or a boreal chickadee, especially during the count. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to play the different songs that they make, because that can help you find them. So a black cap chickadee sounds like this. That's a very perky, upbeat chickadee sound, and the boreal chickadee sounds a little more nasal, sort of raspy, and a sort of more laid back, laconic. So these birds can be hard to spot, so using your ear and listening for the song can be a big advantage in finding them. We also have 2 species of nuthatches in Alberta. The most common is the red-breasted nuthatch. Last year we counted just over 600 of them. So it's got that black, white, black stripe, the black stripe right through the eye, and then the red breast. One thing about nuthatches is that you often see them upside down on a feeder or on the trunk of a tree. So that can be one clue that it's a nuthatch. And here's what the red-breasted nuthatch sounds like. So some have described it as sounding like a toy trumpet. Here's the other nuthatch. It is bigger, slightly bigger than the red-breasted nuthatch. This is a white-breasted nuthatch. You see that it doesn't have that black stripe through the eye, and of course the white breast. And we counted half as many white-breasted as red-breasted, so they are less common. And this is what they sound like. So they do make different calls, but these are sort of representative, but you can hear that's a bit of a lower tone to it. And the next small bird that I will show is the dark-eyed junco. Most of these do go south for the winter, but some do tend to stay behind. Last year we saw 121 of them. So this is a small bird, size of a chickadee, and basically what you're going to see is a bird that's white underneath and dark on top. So some of them are quite a dark slate gray, and this one is a lighter gray with a bit of tinge of brown on it. But you will notice this one feather at the back here is white. It has a dark tail, and the 2 outer tail feathers are white. So when it flies away, it fans its tail, and you'll see the white on either side. So that can be a hint to you that it's a dark-eyed junco. Now I'm going to talk about the 4 most common woodpeckers that are found in Alberta during the winter. Most common is the downy woodpecker. It's also our smallest woodpecker, and last year we counted 430 downies. Now, that number is more than the other 3 woodpeckers combined, so it is very common. And you see the pattern of white and black, and the males have the red patch on the back of its head. Now, this is a hairy woodpecker, and you might think, well, wait a minute, that looks awfully a lot like a downy woodpecker. And it does. So again, you can't just go by color patterns. You need to also look at size and shape, which includes the size and shape of the bill. So this bill is much longer than the downies, and it's a bigger bird than the downy woodpecker. And last year we counted 68 of them. So this is a collage that I made. I had my camera on a tripod, and a downy and a hairy flew into exactly the same spot. So it's a good comparison photo. So you can see that the hairy is much bigger than the downy, and its bill is much longer. But this, you're not going to come across a hairy and a downy sitting side by side for you to compare them. So one trick in birding is to compare it to itself. Oopsie, oopsie. So this shows the length of the bill of the hairy downy woodpecker, which is quite short. If you imagine taking this line and bending it back, it would bend back to just behind its eye. Whereas with the hairy woodpecker, much bigger bill, and if you imagine bending that line back, it would almost go to the back of the head. So when you can't compare them to each other, you compare it to itself in some way. And with these 2 woodpeckers, it's using the bill. This is the northern flicker, very, very beautiful bird, our only brown woodpecker. And it's just gorgeous with the dots on the belly and barring on the back and the black bib, mustache. Quite a beautiful bird. And last winter we counted 39 of them during the count. Now the northern flicker has 2 subspecies. One is the red-shafted and the other is the yellow-shafted. So the red-shafted, they're talking about the coloring that's under the tail and also under the wings. So you can see on the red-shafted here, it's sort of a reddish color. And notice that the coloring is in the shaft of the feather and not just the barb. That's why it's red-shafted. But on the right, this is a yellow-shafted. So when they fly away, you get this nice, beautiful flash of yellow under the tail and under the wings. I found this interesting chart on the All About Birds website, and it shows that the yellow-shafted tend to be on the east side of North America. The red-shafted tend to be on the west side, but these 2 subspecies interbreed a lot, or quite commonly, and so you can also see hybrids or integrates between the 2, so a mix of the 2. And this study was talking about the fact that the color variation is caused by just a difference of a few genes out of tens of thousands, and that's what's making the difference between the 2 subspecies, just a couple of genes different. And just showing a lot of pictures of flickers, but I love them. These are in my backyard. And you'll just notice that with the males, the red-shafted flickers have a red mustache, and the yellow-shafted have the black mustache. And this is our most spectacular woodpecker, as well as our largest one. This is a pileated woodpecker. You can also pronounce it more properly as pileated, but people say both, and I tend towards pileated. Last year we counted 86 of them, and this is what they sound like. So to me that's quite almost a tropical sound, and you can hear that through the river valley when they're flying. And they also, when they come into my backyard, they make that call just to let everybody know they're coming in. So the male pileated woodpecker has a full red cap that goes all the way down to the base of its beak and a red mustache. And the females have a partial cap. It does not go all the way down, and their mustache or malar stripe is black. Just a point of interest, we had a huge spruce tree that was blown down, and when the arborist came, I asked him to leave the snag, the remaining trunk, which he did, and you can see that the woodpeckers have been having a great time getting a lot of bugs out of that. So it's a good thing to do, to just keep some dead wood around. And the video on the right is, we have a pair of pileated woodpeckers coming in daily this winter. This video, they just happened to be both on the feeder at the same time, so it was a nice treat to see them like that. The male is on the left, the female on the right. So just for some size comparisons, I had this wonderful moment when I had a northern flicker and a pileated woodpecker on our bird bath at the same time. So you can see that the pileated woodpecker is probably twice the size of a flicker, and you can see its stiff tail feathers propping it up. It also uses those stiff tail feathers to balance against the side of a tree. All woodpeckers have those tail feathers. And now for the full-size comparison, I'm going to show the smallest one compared to the biggest one. So starting with the downy woodpecker, and this is a suet cage that's was just outside our living room window, and the pileated woodpecker came to exactly the same suet cage. Whoa! Way bigger. And what an amazing bird. But they both are amazing and a delight to have in the yard. Now I'm going to talk about waxwings. So during the winter, sometimes you can see large flocks of waxwings flying around, and then they'll come and settle in on the top of a tree like this photo. This photo was taken by Gerald Romanchuk. So we do have two species of waxwings in Alberta. During the winter time, we're more likely to see the Bohemian waxwings. So these were taken in my backyard. So here's the Bohemian waxwing. The other species of waxwing that we have is the cedar waxwing. So the Bohemian tend to leave for the summer. They go up north to breed, and then they come down during the winter. We have more cedar waxwings here during the summer, and then they disperse during the winter, but some of them hang around, but fewer in number. So one of the differences between the two is that the cedar waxwings have this bit of a yellow wash on their belly. But the main way to tell the difference between a Bohemian and a cedar waxwing is to look at the undertail feathers. And it's very handy because they're often sitting high up in a tree. The cedar waxwing has a white or creamy color in the undertail, and the Bohemian waxwing has a rufous or rusty color. So last year we counted 4,591 Bohemian waxwings compared to 20 cedar waxwings. But in 2016 we had 19,000 Bohemian waxwings compared to 34 cedar waxwings. So you can see that the cedar numbers stayed pretty much the same, but a huge difference in numbers between last year and 2016. So what could have caused that? It's called an eruption, and this happens when birds come down in large numbers based on the status of their wild food crops. And for Bohemian waxwings, that's mountain ash berries or other kinds of berries. And it varies from year to year. So if they have lots of food up where they are in the boreal forest, they'll stay there, and we'll get fewer coming down. And if the berries are lower in number up north, then we get lots of them coming down. They're nomadic and they'll just keep flying around until they find the food that they need. So this is a cool picture I took in my backyard. I had my camera on my tripod, and a Bohemian waxwing came and sat right next to a cedar waxwing. So it's a great comparison picture. So the Bohemian waxwings are bigger, even though it's in front, it also is actually bigger and more gray in the body. The cedar waxwings are more brown. If you see this extra coloring of white and yellow on the wings, that would be a Bohemian waxwing. The cedar waxwing will never have those. Both waxwings have the red tips on their secondary wing feathers, and that looks like red sealing wax, and that's where they get their name waxwing. They both have that yellow tip on the end of their tail, but again, if you look at the undertail feathers, the Bohemian waxwing has that rufous color, and the cedar waxwing it's more white or creamy colored. And this is just a video of the waxwings in our backyard, just to give you a sense of the frenetic energy when they come in. We have a huge ornamental crabapple tree, and they start at the top and they work their way down, and they will eat every single one of those crab apples, and then they're gone and they're finding food elsewhere. So that takes about a week and a half for them to get all those berries off the tree. Crab apples. So it's quiz time to apply some of what you've learned. So if you just take a minute to look at these two waxwing species and decide which one is which. Yes, that is a cedar waxwing on the left, that yellowish wash, and the white under the tail. And this is a Bohemian waxwing with the rufous coloring under the tail. Now I'm going to talk about winter finches, and the finch family is fascinating because it includes birds that are very different in size and shape. It's quite cool. So they include redpolls, pine siskins, those are the smaller ones, two different kinds of crossbills, and then we're going to look at pine grosbeaks. So this chart is really interesting. Again, winter finches come down in eruptions. So it's kind of a boom-bust cycle in the boreal forest up north. And if the food supply crashes, then they fly down here. And not all winter finches eat the same food, so the species that come down will depend on what food is in their bust mode of their cycle. So the chart on the left shows that pine siskins and crossbills feed mostly on the cones. The common redpoll eats deciduous tree seeds like catkins, and the pine grosbeak feed on fruits like mountain ash fruits, etc. So this is a common redpoll. It's just such a sweet little bird. It's the size of a chickadee. It's got a very sharp-pointed, short bill, and the red on top of its head or poll. That's red poll, and a bit of streaking on the side. Last year we counted 196, and that eruption year, 2015, we counted just over 2,000 of them. There's more pictures from my backyard. They like to eat crushed sunflower seed and Niger seed. That's a mix there. And little ports on this particular feeder are very small, so that just the small finch bills can get into them. You see this one on the bottom right has a blush of red on its chest. That would be a male redpoll. And I'm going to play a video during the eruption year. I had between 60 and 120 redpolls in my backyard every day that winter, and it was quite a privilege, quite fun. And you can hear how noisy it is too. And this is just showing part of the yard. Cute little birds. And the other small winter finch is the pine siskin. So it's a bit more of a sleek in body as opposed to the brown redpoll. It's a very streaky bird, and it has a yellow tinge on the edges of its wings and tail. And last year we counted 154, but in that eruption year in 2015, we counted 945. So very small, sleek, streaky birds. Now I'm going to talk about crossbills, and I'm going to show this photo at the end of that part of the talk, and hopefully see if you can tell the difference between these two crossbill species. So one crossbill species that we get is the red crossbill. So you can see the male, nice and red with dark wings there. The female is sort of a yellowy, olivey green color tinge to it. So it's still a red crossbill, but it's not red, it's yellowy green. And I hope that you can see here the bill. This top bill is crossed over the bottom bill. Now the red crossbill species is on our B list, so a little bit more difficult to find. So what is the purpose of that crossbill? Well, they wedge the crossed bill under the scales of a cone, and then they lift it up and pry it open, and then they use their tongue to pull out the pine nut or seed. Now this was during the eruption year in 2015, and these red crossbills were on a bush right by the sidewalk, right in front of me. In fact, I was on crutches, and it was that easy to see them that year. And they were so intent on feeding that they didn't even flush when people were walking right by them. And just a couple of pictures of the female crossbills again, just because I was able to get such beautiful pictures of them that time. And the other species of crossbill that we have in Alberta is the white-winged crossbill. So these are pictures taken in my backyard. And that big spruce tree that we used to have that is now just a snag attracted them into the backyard. So the male is still red, but sort of a lighter rosy red. But you'll notice the white on the wings, the wing bars here. Thus, the white-winged crossbill. And again, the female is that yellowy, greeny color, but she has the white wing bars as well. And you'll notice she's holding a cone in her feet. And what they do is they remove one, and then they sit there, and it's like us when we're eating a corn on the cob. She spins it and she just grabs all the seeds out from under the scales, discards it, goes and grabs another, and then feeds on it. So it's pretty cool. So the white-winged crossbills are on the A list, so they are expected during the winter here. So here's a comparison between the red crossbill on the bottom, just the red, and it's just the dark wings, and the white-winged crossbill above, which is a rosier red and has the white wing bars. You can see this one's also holding onto a cone. So the white-winged crossbill, last year we counted only 5 of them, but in that eruption year in 2015, we counted over 2,000. Compared to the red crossbill male, last year we didn't count any of them. We didn't find any, but in the eruption year we counted 741. So back to that picture at the beginning, I'll give you a few seconds to see if you can identify the 2 species of crossbills in this picture. Yes, I'm sure that you got it. On the left is a red crossbill, just the dark wings, much brighter red color. And that's on the left, and on the right is a white-winged crossbill. So one of the main things is just to look for those white wing bars. Now I'm going to talk about pine grosbeak. And here you can see again, you're looking at the 4 keys to identification. If you just go by color pattern, it's very similar to a white-winged crossbill. So the white wing bars and the red body. But if you go by size and shape, they're a much chunkier bird, sort of a thicker bird. And if you look at the bill, you look at the size and shape of the bill, it's much shorter and larger. So gross beak, large beak. And last year we counted 171, and in that eruption year, 371. So it's not quite as dramatic a number differentiation, but again, they have a different food source that they're concerned about. These are female pine grosbeaks, and with those, they could also be immature males. So you notice that they're eating the fruit, as indicated by that chart. These pictures were taken down at Hurlburt Park. And so if you remember, one of the keys to identification was habitat, and I mentioned what kind of tree and what kind of food it produced. So if you're looking at these birds from a distance, you thought, well, it could be a white-winged crossbill, but you're seeing it eating fruit. White-winged crossbills feed on cones, and the pine grosbeaks are the ones that feed on the berries. So that can be another hint to you to lead you towards identifying it as pine grosbeak. So here's a comparison picture between the white-winged crossbill and the pine grosbeak. So very similar color patterns, but sort of a chunkier bird, and it's mostly the bill that will definitely give it away. A shorter, stubbier bill, a longer crossed bill. So there's the white-winged crossbill and the pine grosbeak. And now I'm going to play you their songs, their calls, and that might also help you with identifying them. Because the white-winged crossbill sounds like this. It's almost a metallic sound, a very crisp sound. The pine grosbeaks have a whistle. It's a very fluty sound. It sounds like this. So if you hear that whistly sound, take a closer look, see if there are any pine grosbeaks around. So quiz time. These are the males of the last 3 species that I've been talking about. Just take a look, see if you can apply what I've been talking about, and identify these birds' species. So the top one is a white-winged crossbill, that longer crossbill, white-winged bars. Red crossbill, dark red, and just black wings without any wing bars, and the pine grosbeak male. And now for the females, I'll give you a minute to look at them. Yes, that is a pine grosbeak, a white-winged crossbill, and a red crossbill, females. So, as new birders, you may be surprised to learn about some of the birds that we have here in the winter. For example, the American robin. We have robins here in the winter. And yes, they are on the A list, so they are expected here most winters. So most of them fly south, but some of them decide, I'm not making the trip, I'm just going to stick around here. And in the winter, they tend to flock together, so you'll see them in groups of 10 or 12. Last year, we counted 26 of them. And just if you needed proof that it's winter time, here's a robin sitting by our Christmas lights. Bit of snow here on the birds. And during the winter, robins will eat the berries rather than, because obviously it doesn't have access to worms in the ground, so they feed on berries. And they're attracted to open water, so they'll come to the heated bird bath. But also there's parts of the city where they can find open water. For example, in Hurlburt Park, there's up the hill there's one little spot where there's some running water. So you'll often see robins there during winter. And what? Ducks? Yeah, there are parts of the North Saskatchewan River that are open throughout the winter, outflows. Again, this is at Hurlburt Park. So these are mallards in the snow. Mallards, last year we counted 600 of them. There are also other ducks in the area. And in 2015, for whatever reason, there were 1,476 mallards counted. So they are also a bird that's on our A list. They are expected during the winter. And finally, bald eagles. I think some people will be surprised to know that we have bald eagles here in the summer as well. But yes, they feed on the ducks. So if ducks hang around over the winter, some of the bald eagles will as well. And last year we counted 12 bald eagles in the city. Pretty darn cool. Beautiful bird. So yeah, look for them along the river, and especially along the river where there's the water hasn't frozen. Okay, so now I'm going to talk about the Edmonton Christmas Bird Count website, and that is actually my picture of a red crossbill on there, on the nice banner there. So yes, the URL is at the bottom here, edmontonchristmasbirdcount.ca. pretty easy to remember. And this year's bird count is on December 19th, 2021. So one of the tabs that you can click on is zone maps, and it can show you that the city of Edmonton is divided into 16 zones, and each zone has a captain for the count. So there's tabs that'll show you this main zone map with all the different zones shown there, and you can also click on a tab that'll show you just the map for just one area. On the participate tab, this is where you can register to take part in the count. Now, even if you are a new birder, if you're out and about, you'll get paired up with experienced birders, and if you're just watching your feeder at home, even if you just get a few birds there, it's important that they get included in the count. So consider taking part if you want. So again, there's feeder watchers, just watching from home, and there's bush beaters, and it's sort of an over-dramatized term. The bush beaters are just walking around the streets, around the communities, and through the river valley. So last year we had 251 feeder watchers. That's my granddaughter Rosie when she was about 3. And 222 bush beaters. Now this photo is a pre-COVID photo. So if you do go out with some bush beaters, it will be a small group, around 4, and COVID restrictions will be in place. For example, physical distancing. There's a tab on how to count birds, because they're flying in and out. Yeah, so it just gives you the standard for how to count them. And this tab, winter birds, there's a gallery of photos with all the birds that I've just shown you. So you can go back there to be reminded of what they are. And if you either hover on the bird or click on it, it'll tell you what the species is and give you a bit of information about it. And then on this page, winter birds, this is where you'll find that ABC species list that I told you about before. And then, finally, the results tab. So on January 6th, there's going to be a Zoom meeting of everybody who took part. They'll talk about all the birds that were seen, and then they will be, the results will be added to this page. So that's it, I believe. Okay, just 3 URLs that you might find useful. Edmonton Christmas Bird Count.ca. And then there's the Edmonton Nature Club.org. And then there's the Cornell Lab of Ornithology's website, all about birds, and it's an excellent resource. Look up any bird and it'll give you all the information about it, show you lots of pictures, and have sounds of what they sound like. So it's a good place to go. So that is it. So if you're out birding, happy birding to you all. And if you're taking part in the count, to all a good count. And I don't know if you'll notice here in the caption it says, I'd say it was the 6th best PowerPoint presentation we've seen this year. Audubon meeting. Cute. The end. Again, thank you so much for taking part in this and coming along for the ride.